Is strength what defines a man? This idea, extolled throughout history, has shaped generations of men who feel compelled to demonstrate power, control, and resilience in every aspect of their lives. But what if I told you that this strength may not be yours? That the concept of masculinity you strive to achieve may just be an invisible construct of a system that does not want you to be free, but obedient. Michel Foucault, a French philosopher who dedicated his life to studying power and discipline, argues that modern societies do not need chains or bars to control their citizens. Instead, they create subtle systems of surveillance and norms that condition behavior. He called these docile bodies, bodies trained to act, think, and even feel according to invisible expectations. Now, think about your life. Do you seek financial success because you want it, or because you have been taught to believe that it is synonymous with strength? Do you suppress your emotions because it is the right thing to do, or because you fear being seen as weak? The question here is not just about what you do, but why you do it. These are uncomfortable questions, and that's exactly what makes them powerful. After all, if the strength you believe you possess is not authentic, but rather the result of invisible rules, what does that say about your freedom? In this video, you'll explore Foucault's concept of masculinity and discover how to identify the invisible rules that shape your choices. Modern society is a grand stage where each of us plays well-rehearsed roles. For men, the script is clear. Be strong, gain power, hide vulnerabilities. But who wrote this script? And why do we continue to follow it, even though it often leads to exhaustion or a feeling of emptiness? Michel Foucault gives us a clue. He argues that modern power is less about overt oppression and more about invisible control. Institutions, school, work, family shape behaviors from an early age, teaching what is acceptable. This indoctrination creates a system where men, without even realizing it, live as docile bodies, perfectly adjusted to expectations. Consider the following example. From childhood, society tells us that boys don't cry. What seems like a simple rule carries a much deeper message. Not crying means not showing weakness, which translates into learning to hide emotions. In the long run, this not only conditions men to repress feelings, but also distances them from authenticity and real human connections. Another clear example is the obsession with financial success. Many men believe that being successful is synonymous with being strong. But is this pursuit genuine? Or is it just a way of meeting the expectations of a system that associates human value with the ability to consume and accumulate goods? The consequences of this are profound. Anxiety, alienation, and even identity crises are common among those who blindly follow these norms. But the most dangerous thing is that these men rarely realize that they are trapped in an invisible trap. They believe they are in control, when in fact they are controlled. The question then is inevitable. If these invisible norms are shaping their idea of strength, what does this mean for their freedom? Is the concept of modern masculinity more of a prison than an expression of strength? This is where we begin to unravel the true impact of these invisible rules. It is not just about questioning what it means to be a man, but about understanding how these norms shape us and how we can free ourselves from them. If you ask a man if he considers himself strong, he will probably answer yes. After all, to admit otherwise would be to accept defeat in a world where strength is the most exalted male virtue. But is this strength genuine or just a carefully constructed mask of obedience? Michel Foucault introduced the concept of panopticism, a metaphor for modern power, in which control is not imposed by bars or explicit punishments, but by the feeling of being constantly watched. This model of surveillance applies perfectly to contemporary masculinity. You don't need someone to outright tell you what to do. Society has already conditioned you to believe that certain actions and behaviors are inevitable. Think of social media. It has become the modern mirror of masculinity, where men post about their achievements, muscular bodies, or luxurious lifestyles to gain approval. External validation has become the measure of strength, but also the proof of your obedience. Do you post to be admired or to avoid being forgotten? This is the essence of panopticism, the internalization of norms that control you without you even realizing it. Another clear manifestation is the idea of emotional invulnerability. From an early age, men learn that showing weakness is a social sin. This invisible rule forces them to wear the mask of strength, even when they are on the verge of collapse. In a world where men are expected to be unshakable, who would dare admit that they are broken? The consequence of this is a life governed by fear. Fear of being inadequate, of being judged, of not fitting in. The paradox here is clear. The man who should be free and strong is in fact a prisoner. He is strong only in appearance, while his behavior is dictated by invisible social norms. And the evidence of this is everywhere. The increasing rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness among men reflect the unsustainability of this mask of strength. Many lose themselves in trying to live up to expectations that they don't even know where they came from. So how do we break this cycle? The first step is to recognize that authentic strength does not come from obedience. It comes from the ability to identify these invisible rules and resist them. After all, if you are acting only to please a system, your strength is only a reflection of your submission. At this point, it is no longer just about strength or weakness. It is about freedom. It is about the courage to be authentic in a world that demands that you be something you are not. Authentic strength does not come from a universal manual or from models imposed by disciplined societies. It is built by directly confronting the norms that shape us and by having the courage to choose a path that reflects who we truly are. This is where resistance becomes the foundation for a truer masculinity. Michel Foucault offers us a unique perspective. Where there is power, there is resistance. The same structures that seek to shape us also reveal loopholes that we can exploit. But how do we identify these invisible rules and create a strength that is genuinely ours? The first step is to identify limiting patterns. What aspects of your life have been defined by external pressures? Think about the times when you have worked hard to impress someone, or when you have avoided showing vulnerability for fear of judgment. Each of these choices reveals a pattern that you can begin to question. For example, if financial success is the only metric by which you measure your strength, ask yourself, who set this rule? Is accumulating wealth the real goal or just a way to fit in with the system? Genuine strength is not limited to numbers or status. It lies in clarity about what really matters. The second step is to redefine personal values. This requires introspection and courage. Ask yourself, what do I really want? What are my principles? Here it is essential to disconnect from external noise. Too often, society shouts that you should be strong, but it does not explain to whom or why. Building genuine strength means deciding your own reasons. Be honest. Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, no one truly sees you? It's not about lacking value. It's about knowing how to make it visible. The social game isn't fair. If you don't know the rules, you're left behind, but you don't have to stay invisible. In the Anti-Weak audiobook, I share 22 strategies to master interactions, gain respect, and step out of the shadows. Click the link in the description now and start the transformation only you can make happen. Now comes the practical challenge, acting in a way that is aligned with your values. Resistance is not just a theoretical concept, it is lived in everyday life. This may mean saying no to a project that does not resonate with you, even if everyone applauds it. Or it may mean accepting your vulnerability as part of your strength, showing it at times when others hide. Foucault reminds us that power is constantly in flux. If the rules change, so can you. Genuine strength requires strategic adaptation, but without giving up authenticity. To make this more tangible, consider a few practical techniques. Create healthy boundaries. You don't have to be available all the time to please others. Knowing how to say no is an act of strength. Prioritize self-awareness. Meditation, therapy, or even a simple journal can help you identify what is truly yours and what has been imposed on you. Find allies. Strengthen connections with people who support your authenticity rather than demanding conformity. Finally, remember that building genuine strength is an ongoing process. There is no one moment when you arrive. But with each conscious choice, you move closer to a masculinity that is not a prison, but an expression of freedom. The world may try to mold you, but the decision to resist and create your own definition of strength is the most powerful act you can take. It's easy to talk about resilience and authenticity, but how do you turn these ideas into concrete action? To free yourself from the social pressures that shape your perception of strength, you need to adopt daily practices that reinforce your mental and emotional independence. The first step is ongoing self-diagnosis. Take time to reflect on your actions and choices. Ask yourself, do I really want this, or am I doing it to meet other people's expectations? This simple but powerful exercise can be done through journaling or introspection. For example, after a stressful day at work, reflect on the decisions you made. Did you act based on your values, or just go with the flow? Another practical method is to perform small acts of resistance daily. This doesn't mean destructively going against the system, but rather questioning norms that don't make sense to you. If there's pressure to show off on social media, try doing the opposite. Go a day without posting anything and see how that impacts your perception of worth. Or, if you feel pressured to avoid vulnerability, share something honest with someone you trust. Furthermore, it is crucial to establish clear priorities. Modern society is full of distractions that try to occupy our time and attention. Decide what really matters to you and focus on that. If financial success is important to you, do it because it reflects your values, not because it is an imposed obligation. If authentic relationships are your priority, dedicate time to building them. Another key aspect is finding allies on the journey to authenticity. Genuine connections are empowering, but it requires an effort to surround yourself with people who share similar values. As Foucault suggests, power is never unilateral, it is negotiated. Having a support network can help you resist external pressures. Finally, adopt the practice of celebrating small victories. Freeing yourself from social pressures is a gradual process, and every step counts. If you can say no to something that doesn't resonate with you, that is already a demonstration of authentic strength. True transformation begins when you stop blindly following invisible rules and start creating your own path. Social pressures are real and often intense, but the power to resist is within reach of all who choose to use it. Remember, every act of resistance, no matter how small, is a step toward a more authentic life. The strength you seek is not in the social norms you follow or the expectations others place on you. It is in your ability to resist, question, and build a life that is aligned with who you truly are. What we have explored here is more than a critique of social norms. It is a call to action. You have learned that modern masculinity is often not an expression of freedom, but of obedience to invisible rules. Michel Foucault showed us how these structures shape our behaviors, and now it is up to you to decide whether you will continue to follow them or seek to create your own definition of strength. Remember that freedom is not just a distant ideal, but something earned daily in the small decisions you make. Each time you choose to act on your values, rather than giving in to external pressures, you demonstrate true strength. However, this journey requires courage. Questioning norms often means facing rejection, judgment, and the discomfort of not fitting in. But it is in this discomfort that the power of transformation lies. We end with a thought. What legacy do you want to leave? A man who simply reproduced patterns, or someone who had the courage to live authentically? The world doesn't need more strength based on appearance. It needs men who are truly strong in essence and purpose. Now the final question. What will you do with this knowledge? Share your ideas, questions, or challenges in the comments. After all, the first step towards transformation is to start the conversation.